Hello, I am Mario 8 and welcome to Super Mario Bros. In Review, the show where I will be reviewing all 18 Super Mario Bros. Platformers and ranking them to find the ultimate Super Mario Bros. Game. You can find all the previous and future videos in the playlist linked in the description, but first, this week we will be visiting Super Mario 3D World for the Nintendo Wii U, and now technically the Switch too. The game was released in November of 2013. 3D World went on ahead and became the second best-selling game on the Wii U with just over 5 million copies sold. And its re-release on the Switch only sold, almost double at over 9 million copies within the first few months. But regardless of Nintendo's financial woes during the Wii U era, Super Mario 3D World went on to be reviewed incredibly well. As the direct sequel to Super Mario 3D Land, 3D World went on to expand upon the ideas its predecessor introduced to great success. World had larger and more innovative levels, many new mechanics, returning ones in fascinating contexts, all wrapped up with the ability to play up to 4-player co-op. 3D World was definitely one of the best Wii U titles. The development team behind 3D Land, Nintendo EAD Tokyo, led this project with additional support from 1UP Studio. The game was produced by the returning Yoshiaki Koizumi and directed by Koichi Hayashida and Kenta Motokura. During the dev cycle, the team seemingly went in with two main goals: add a bunch of really fun mechanics and make the game readable for everyone. To generate mechanics, the entire team thought up as many ideas as they could and culled any that weren't up to snuff. Some ideas had to be implemented in-game, others were only analyzed on paper, but only the best ideas could make it into the final product. The ideas had to be clear and readable, so newer players could quickly understand what to do, and so that in the chaos of 4 players jumping wildly, nobody would get lost. I didn't get any experience with co-op, but I read that while amazingly, the game still works with 4 other jabronis jumping around, apparently the camera got a bit wonky in certain situations. On a more somber note, 3D World is the last mainline Mario game executive produced by the late and great Satoru Iwata. Thanks for all the games. As I mentioned during the NSMBU review, I did not buy a Wii U at launch. As it turned out, the poorly reviewed 2D Mario platformer and Nintendo Land didn't quite sell me on the concept. But 3D World managed to pull me in hook, line, and sinker, and I absolutely loved it. 3D World and Mario Kart 8 really made my Wii U purchase worth it. I have spent so much time in both of these games. Wait? Huh? I've been told I've played through both of them more on my Switch at this point. Huh. Either way, I really loved 3D World when I first played it, but was a bit annoyed by its completionist criteria. I'll expound shortly, but I basically had to play every level 5 different times. 7 years later, when the game was put out on Switch, I was just as excited to reacquaint myself. And after playing Bowser's Fury, I was once again overjoyed with the excellent levels and now even better physics. And once again, I begrudgingly completed the game. That was about a year ago, making 3D World the freshest Mario game in my play history, and honestly, I probably didn't even need to play it again. My opinions on it are pretty much the same as they were beforehand, although I did value getting one last refresher, especially now that it's in context with the Galaxy games and 3D Land. But one thing I promised myself way back when I started this project was that I would not force myself to 100% complete the game again. Just beating all the levels would suffice. Oh? Huh. Here's a video clip of me getting the final stamp in the game again. And oh god. There's the 5 stars on the profile. Crap, why am I like this? The story in Super Mario 3D World isn't all that much, but it's like, sorta a bit more than usual, kinda. One evening, Mario, his brother Luigi, their completely platonic friend, Princess Peach, and a random blue toad are just walking outside of Peach's castle during some sort of fireworks festival. They come upon a broken and transparent warp pipe, and the brothers, being plumbers or carpenters, fix it up in a jiffy. Once fixed, many of the new elements from the game come spewing out the top, including the new power-ups, some baseballs, some normal Mario items for good measure, and then this little guy peeks her head out. She's a Sprixie, you know, like Pixie, I guess, and warns the group that Bowser has captured her friends. Well, it turns out Bowser captures her too, popping from the same pipe. He snacks her in this big glass jar before disappearing back through the opening. Taking the initiative, Peach jumps in to give chase to the King Koopa quickly, followed by Mario and the Toad. Eventually, by a now readied Luigi, and the group travel to the Sprixie Kingdom. Here, the group chase Bowser and his minions through the 6 Sprixie worlds, through Bowser's castle, and then through Bowser's carnival. After fighting Furry Bowser, the group rescue all the Sprixies and blast Bowser off into the distance. And even later still, the Sprixies build a rocket so that the group can recruit Princess Rosalina, who is here now too for some reason. Remember when she only came around every 100 years? Yeah, me neither. At the top, 3D World has 4 characters, with the 5th added early on in the postgame, and playing as each character is an absolute dream. The movement mechanics are largely the same as in 3D Land, but the controls and physics have been polished to the nth degree. Each character can walk or run around, everyone can jump, crouch jump, side somersault jump, wall jump, and long jump. Additionally, rolling and roll jumps have made their second appearance. 2 things make these feel much better in World than Land. The obvious change is the upgrade from the 3DS thumbpad to an actual joystick. But every aspect of the game movement was improved too. Everyone is just a bit faster, their jumps, especially the long jumps, carry a bit further. Momentum is especially good in World, it is much easier to gain it and keep it running. And all of this is enhanced in the Switch port. The speed was marginally increased across the game, making for a fast and fluid experience. And having taken inspiration from the next game in the series, everyone can now ground pound and roll into pipes, or jump much higher right after ground pounding, and it's all really fun. All 5 of the playable characters control the same, but their physics differ. Mario is the balanced character, he has decent speed, average jump height, and stops on a dime. Luigi runs a little bit faster, jumps much higher, but is so gosh darn slippery. Peach is real slow, but can hover in the air while she jumps. Toad is real quick, but it has the smallest of the jumps. And Rosalina is the slowest of everyone, her jump is average, but she inherits the spin move from Galaxy. This works as both an attack and a slight double jump. My preference has always been to just play as Mario, but Rosalina's spin makes her my next favorite. She's also the easiest character to play as, which is a bit of a shame that she's unlocked so late in the game. 3D World is organized into 8 main worlds with 4 extra worlds in the postgame. While the last has only 3 stages, they are the hardest. The world maps are fully open, and while the levels and side activities are usually linked by a path, it's one the player need not follow. As the players navigate the world map, sometimes coins or 1-ups can be found, as well as hidden pipes that lead to secret levels. Certain levels will initially be blocked off, requiring a certain amount of green stars collected before unlocking. And aside from a couple of bosses, most of the locked levels are the more challenging of the 2 available, so that newer or less experienced players always have a way through to the end. Across the world, there are a few different activities, the most common being item houses. The second most common are blockades, where some enemies will block the level progression until beaten. Less common are the mystery boxes. These are a series of small challenges that involve collecting a green star within 10 seconds. Sometimes the challenge is to defeat enemies quickly, other times to press a button. A few are to get to the star quickly. Captain Toad makes his return, this time with really clever puzzle levels. The player has to navigate Captain Toad through a rotatable 3D puzzle to collect all 5 green stars while avoiding hazards, with a twist that Toad can neither jump nor run. These are so fun in this game, so much so that he got his own spin-off a few years later. Each level is laid out similarly to Mario 3D Land. Each player starts out at the beginning of the level with the camera pointed in the general direction of forward. Most of the time the game relies on the player running in that direction, usually either up or to the right, crossing any number of obstacles and attempting to reach the top of the flagpole. I say usually because auto-scrolling levels do return once more. Within each level are 3 main collectibles to find. Returning from Galaxy 2 and replacing Land's star coins are the 3 green stars, each hidden just out of sight, within a mystery box, behind a puzzle, or just in a hard-to-reach place. There is also a hidden stamp in each level and are hidden similarly to the green stars. Lastly, and it's a bit of a stretch to call it a collectible, but getting to the top of the flagpole is required for completion. Luckily, it's much easier this time around. There's a wider hitbox to get to the top. It almost feels like a magnetic pull at times, and most of the levels are designed to make it incredibly easy. Thinking back, I don't think I was ever truly upset at any of the collectible locations. Sure, a few relied on retaining a power-up given at the start of the level, but even that is at least a test of skill. I can only think of a couple examples where I had to get an item from another level to get a star or stamp in this one, and those were frustrating, but these couple examples were a far cry from how often it happened in Land. Speaking of power-ups, every item from 3D Land returns from 3D World with 3 new and 1 newish item. Mushrooms return, fire flowers work the same, but fireballs can be thrown through the clear pipes to reach further enemies, the boomerang suit can still collect items from the distance, and Tanuki suits let the player spin and hover as in Land. With the only noticeable change being, for whatever reason, this suit gives the princesses some dump trucks. I mean, wow! Also, if the player dies 5 or more times in a regular level, the Super Tanuki suit returns as an easy mode, but this does remove the sparkles from the file select stars, so be warned. The superstar is also here, but for the most part is only doled out to give the player an easy 1-up. As for the newer power-ups, the new-ish item is the Mega Mushroom, originally from the new Super Mario Bros. Series. It's only given in maybe 4 or 5 levels, but each time it's used leads to some really clever gameplay, albeit gameplay that's probably not fun for the other 3 players. And the 3 truly new items are the Super Bell, Lucky Bell, and Double Cherries. Both of the bells give the player the cat suit, with the Lucky suit turning the player into a statue when ground pounding. And the cat suit is such a versatile piece of equipment. The player can swipe at enemies to defeat them, climb up walls for a short distance, raise platforms, have a diagonal glide when swiping in the air, and can climb up the flagpole to get to the top with ease. So much of the game is designed around the catsuit. Many secrets are at the tops of walls, enemies are much easier to defeat with it, plus it's just so cute seeing everyone dressed up as a little kitty cat. In comparison, the Double Cherries aren't the most interesting but lead to some pretty fun challenges. As the name implies, eating one creates a clone of the player that follows all the same inputs, and eating more cherries creates more clones. But these clones only have a single hit before they disappear, so the challenge is often to get through the level with as many clones as possible. Power-ups aren't the only items in the game, there are also a few things the player can either wear around or hold. Returning from land is the propeller box, which is underutilized, and the coin box, which as the player moves, coins pop out. I especially love the confetti explosion when the coin box runs out. New headwear includes the cannon block, the light box, and the Goomba mask. The cannon shoots cannonballs out to defeat enemies or destroy blocks, the light box projects a cone of light that can destroy boos, and I'm Gonkenba? How? The Gonken Bomb mask makes it so enemies don't attack their wearer. As for grabbables, there are ice skates, piranha plants, baseballs, snowballs, and bombs. None of them are used extensively throughout the game, but aside from the ice skate, each is given a really good moment to shine. It's fun tossing baseballs to collect green stars just out of reach, or tossing bombs to obliterate enemies always feels pretty good. Of the wearables, the cannon by far has the most creative usages, and while sometimes difficult to aim, I really enjoyed using it. Every stage has a different combination of power-ups, items, and platforming puzzles to create fun and interesting experiences, and each new element is just as creative as the last. The clear pipes were utilized in multiple different ways, often there to get from one area of the level to the next, or for enemies to sneak up on the player, or as a sneaky way to get secrets. And it was always visually entertaining to watch the characters zoom through them. Some of my personal favorites were the red-blue panels that flip whenever a character jumps, the beat blocks that change in tempo with the music, or the dash panels that make characters run super fast. Some features that utilize the touch on the Wii U tablet have been adapted to gyro sensors in the Joy-Cons. While this works, it winds up feeling awkward. Regardless, there are so many levels in the game that are memorable solely due to being fun, and they pop up through each of the worlds up until the very end of the game. Plenty of enemies make their return in 3D World, including everyone's favorite Biddy Buddies. Stacks of Goombas are utilized quite extensively, and some of my personal favorites, the Bullies from Mario 64 and the Charge and Chucks from Mario World, make long-awaited appearances. And the list of new enemies is even longer. The two most striking are Goombas and Bullet Bills that have tasted the cat. The Goombas jump up and do a little aerial dash, and the Bullet Bills basically become homing missiles. I also really enjoyed how the conch doors looked, and the boulders were utilized in really fun ways, both in puzzles and combat. Bosses really nailed it this time around. Aside from Boom Boom and Pom Pom, who are just as easy as they were in Land, every boss in this game is fun. They all managed to put really good twists on the hit them 3 times mechanic. Bowser's first 2 fights have him harking the player from his lowrider. The Histocrat utilizes the cat suit well, the Motley Boss Blob utilizes the Double Cherry well, and I especially love that the final furry Bowser fight. This time around, Bowser utilizes both the cat suit and the Double Cherry against the players as they climb his tower, where it becomes a challenge to simply stay alive. 3D Land might have had an extensive post-game, both by doubling the level count from the main game and requiring both Mario and Luigi to beat them all. 3D World's postgame is significantly smaller but manages to make a much more cohesive story, until it's not. Of the 4 new worlds, the first, World Star, consists of entirely new levels. These are by far the hardest levels thus far and pose a really fun challenge. And even this late in the game, so many of these levels are so memorable, like the shooter type level or the one where the flagpole runs away. The next 2 worlds, Mushroom and Flower, consist of remixes of previous stages similar to how 3D Land did it. Sometimes whole levels, sometimes just chunks of them were taken and modified to be harder. While these are less memorable due to their repeated nature, they're all really good challenges. The World Crown is unlocked when every green star, stamp, and flagpole have been collected. Doing so unlocks the final 3 levels: the final Captain Toad challenge, the final mystery box, and Champion's Road. The Captain Toad level is technically harder than the others, but none ever get too hard. The mystery box is a gauntlet where the player has to solve 30 remixed challenges in a row, and while I've memorized each at this point, this can certainly be a challenge. But Champion's Road, ooh, this is a good level. It's hard, so hard, but incredibly good. It takes many elements from the game and puts them together in fascinating and brutal combinations. It's long, each segment is harder than the last, and the only reward is to say I've done it, but oh boy does it feel good to say. This is the only level in the game I don't mind having to play 5 different times. Because as I mentioned at the top, to complete the game I had to play everything 5 times. Everything. When World Crown unlocks, the level select displays what characters have beaten that level. When one character has beaten every stage, their final character stamp is unlocked. 5 different playthroughs unlock the 5 final stamps, and that 5th beautiful star on the file select. Of course, there are ways to largely get around this. Multiplayer is the intended way, but if extra controllers are collected, they can all bubble while one actually beats the level. I did not do this because there is something wrong with me. At the very least, I recommend beating Champion's Road with all 5 characters. It's fun to see how it was designed to accommodate their unique traits. The visual design of 3D World might be the biggest whiff. Yeah, the game looks good, but unoriginal. All the character models shine, all the levels and environments are pretty, but none of it makes cohesive sense. Most areas throw out thematic consistency entirely. Levels of differing themes are all jumbled together, and I understand why this happened. From a gameplay perspective, too many of the same theme would get boring to watch. Plus, it would be easier to sort by difficulty. But as a whole, it makes it so the Sprixie Kingdom doesn't actually feel like a place. Compared to the Galaxy games, even with Galaxy 2's more linear approach, each of those galaxies still have so much more character than any stage in 3D World. World only feels like a series of levels within some pretty looking maps. And even worse, 3D World released well within the year of Luigi. This means that after beating Furry Bowser, Luigi Bros, a Luigi-based mod of the original Mario Bros arcade game, is unlocked. As well as throughout the game, so many Luigi sprites show up. They're hidden behind walls and blocks, in confetti, on pipes, they're everywhere. And it's terrible. But where the visual design was the weakest aspect, the soundtrack might be the strongest. The OST was composed by Mahito Yokota, Toru Minagashim, Koji Kondo, and Yasuaki Iwata, and was performed by a big band that was brought together for the game. Where the Galaxy games took place in space and had an appropriate sound to match, 3D Worlds took place back on land, and the composers wanted this feeling to match too. With that, they decided on a much jazzier approach to the soundtrack, and I absolutely love every track. The band used heavy trumpet, sax, and the occasional electric guitar, and every piece of music makes you want to start dancing. I mean, just listen to this one real quick. Almost every song is this good, especially when this main theme comes back up. Plus, we got reorchestrations of the Gusty Garden Galaxy theme and the Mario Bros. 2 USA theme, so it's all around bangers. Super Mario 3D World is an excellent game. Not only are so many of the levels so fun and creative to play through, the fact that they account for 5 different characters and are playable with up to 4 people at a time is just truly amazing. and with the refined physics coming in the Switch version and the killer soundtrack, it's really hard to find glaring problems with the game. But gameplay mechanics weren't the only thing updated by the Switch port. Bowser's Fury is an add-on expansion released along with Super Mario 3D World for the Nintendo Switch. The game was released worldwide on February 12, 2021, but not much is currently known about the development cycle. Even in the credits, the developers are listed in alphabetical order, so it's hard to say exactly how the game came together. Given the game's shorter nature and its inclusion with 3D World, I'm considering a DLC in lieu of being a standalone title. With how recently it released, I actually remember the day I started playing Bowser's Fury pretty vividly. I was impatiently waiting for the game to be delivered while I toiled away at work. As soon as I got the notification, I leapt from my desk, tore open the packaging, and jumped right in. I wanted to experience the new stuff first, so I started with Bowser's Fury, only replaying 3D World after. And don't tell my boss that I did this during work hours. At first, I was amazed with the premise. I loved the open world design and the level designs were great. Of course, I had my share of complaints too, but getting this new, unexpected Mario stuff really skewed my opinion to be generally more positive. And so as I hopped back into Bowser's Fury, I did so with the expectation that I would probably only be refining my opinions, not generating new ones. The story in Bowser's Fury is another interesting one. Mario is walking just outside of Peach's castle when he comes upon a trail of icky paint-like goop. This leads him to a black graffiti M painted in the same way as done in Super Mario Sunshine. Hey, check that out! They're pandering to people like me! I love it! Either way, the M turns into a portal that wisps Mario to Lake Lapcat. He's then attacked by a big, goopy, all-black Bowser known as Fury Bowser, and is only calmed down after Mario collects a cat shine. Hey, they're called shines! That's more pandering! Afterwards, he runs into Bowser Jr., who explains that Bowser got possessed somehow and needs Mario's help to fix him. Mario relents and the two travel the lake, collecting enough shines to unlock the Gigabells. These turn Mario into a big cat that is able to whoop Fury Bowser. After doing so 3 times, Bowser is de-goopified but still possessed. He captures all 3 Gigabells in a magic ball, and Mario gives chase with the help of Plessy. After smashing the ball, Mario and Plessy turn into a super really big Cat Mario and Cat Plessy, and bonk, Bowser out of frame. Afterwards, we're treated to a fun scene where Junior calms down Bowser, who is ready to attack Mario on sight. And during the credits, through a series of fun illustrations painted by Bowser Jr., we learn that he tried to use his magic paintbrush to help his dad when he got hurt, but it had the inverse effect, instead turning Bowser into the goopy mess from the game. And the game itself is separated into a series of different levels. However, unlike in 3D World, where the levels are isolated and selected from a world map, every level here is floating somewhere along Lake Lapcat. Each level has 5 different shines, and while the types of shines become pretty algorithmic, it's more than made up for with the level design. Every level is so fun to traverse. They all utilize level mechanics from 3D World but are optimized for the more open world approach Bowser's Fury has taken. And some mechanics that were underutilized in 3D World, like the propeller hat or the ice skate, are used in really fun ways in Fury. The shines all fall into the same few categories: get to the top, find the cat shards, defeat Fury Luigi, find the key and bring it to the start of the level, or collect all the blue coins before the timer runs out, good luck. But only 2 are active from the start. Mario needs to head to another level first and collect some shines in that one before returning to the previous level. Once doing so, the level will change slightly, usually with different enemies about. Luckily, the game only has 12 levels, so this formula only gets a little old by the end. While some levels Mario can just run to, some have miles of open lake in between. For this, Plessy has been redesigned to get Mario from point A to point B. Plessy pops out of the water whenever Mario gets close and can dash across the lake with ease. He can either hop or dive, both being used to get a few different Plessy-specific shines. They're few and far between, and all of them boil down to racing Plessy to an end goal quickly, but they break up the pacing well. I do wish there were more of them, because the open waters between levels wind up feeling pretty empty even with these extra shines. All of these levels are well and good, but Bowser is ever on the horizon. As Mario explores, his shell will slowly rise from the goop. When fully charged, he'll jump out and initiate Fury Bowser. This changes the sky black. Chunks of stone rain from the sky, and Bowser will blast beams at Mario on a regular basis. A few stones in each level are only broken by these blasts, so it's wise to head to them whenever this mode starts. After a few attacks, Bowser will up and retreat, but by collecting a shine during these segments, not only will he retreat immediately, but some of his overall health will be depleted a bit. Or if enough shines have been collected, Mario can collect the Giga Bell to fight off Bowser mono-e-mono. These boss fights are pretty sick, and in the end made for really fun interactive kaiju fights. Initially, the Fury Bowser segments were really fun. They added a sense of urgency. The easiest way to end them is to get a shine, so the race to unlock whatever one is closest while dodging his various attacks is a stressful romp. But they just happen too often. Initially, it's every few minutes or so, but each time Mario beats him, the timer gets smaller and smaller, to the point where during the endgame it feels like there's no time to explore anymore. He is constantly appearing, and if there's no shine nearby, the only ways to send him back are to wait like 5 minutes or to kill Mario, and neither of these are fun options. Aside from Fury Bowser being too common, my other complaint is, well, that Bowser's Fury is running on the 3D World engine. To run, I have to press Y. To move the camera, I have to use the right joystick. This makes it incredibly difficult to run while moving the camera. And in an open world game where oftentimes I want to run, hold an item, and look around, it becomes really frustrating. Now in the game's defense, most of the time where open exploration is needed, I usually didn't need to run, but for the few side quests where I was holding a kitty or a key, I wound up having this fun hook hand, where I continued to hold run with my thumb, but wrapped around my index finger to move the camera. I was frustrated with this the first time I played, and I am still frustrated now. Aesthetically, the game looks pretty good. All the enemies have been given cute cat makeovers and they're all adorable. The skybox isn't the most interesting, but I liked the small detail of the snow-capped mountains off in the distance. Unfortunately, the frame rate did drop quite a bit when there was too much on screen, and the areas in between the levels are fairly boring. They are 7.8 too much water. The music is all fun. I can only assume it was done by mostly the same people as 3D World, but again, I haven't found much about who worked on this. The music all fits thematically with 3D World, but is mostly new compositions. I can't say I liked any of the new tracks as much as those in 3D World, but they did a good job regardless. I especially liked the few moments where some of the 3D World themes snuck their way into these new compositions. Overall, while not the best Mario, I really enjoyed Bowser's Fury. The levels continued to be fun, the Fury mechanic was really good but got overused towards the end, and I really liked the idea of an open-world Mario game. Even if the game didn't nail the areas in between levels, I'm really excited to see how this design ethos is implemented in further games. I could easily see a whole game consisting of maybe 3 or 4 areas similar to Lake Lapcat, with some polish to make the areas in between more interesting. And here is the hardest part of this review. Where the hell am I gonna rank this? I have very few problems with Super Mario 3D World, and excluding completionist gripes, I have basically none. It also pushes my narrative of Mario 2 USA being a real Mario game, which is good, because it means I'm right. And with the addition of Bowser's Fury, an experience that is not my favorite but still really fun and a great look at what is to come, I don't know how I couldn't rank this game high. Initially, I know for a fact that it will be better than Super Mario Sunshine. But how do I rank this among the Galaxy games? Each level isn't as visually interesting in 3D World, the gravity mechanic is really cool, I love exploring the Comet Observatory and to a lesser extent the Starship Mario, but the Galaxy games were slower paced and had a lot of downtime between stars, where 3D World is much quicker to gameplay. They all have Captain Toad, they all have Rosalina. Only 2 of them forced me to play as Luigi for completion. 3D World was released during the year of Luigi. This is a bad thing. And 3D World doesn't have penguins in it. Also bad. Okay, I've decided. My new ranking of 3D Mario games is 6 Super Mario 3D Land, 5 Super Mario 64, 4 Super Mario Sunshine, 3 Super Mario Galaxy, 2 Super Mario Galaxy 2, and 1 Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I realized that I was trying to find reasons not to put 3D World at the top. For all the complaints I have against the Wii U, it managed to put out a really good Mario game. And now we only have one game left. I haven't played this game since 2018, so I'm ready to jump up Superstar once more. Of course, I am dreading ranking it against the juggernaut that is the top 3, but I'm up for the challenge. Up next, our ultimate Mario game, Super Mario Odyssey. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, maybe leave a rating or a sub to be notified of more. While you're down there, you can check the description for all of my socials where I'm at Mario8th everywhere. I'm on Twitter, Tumblr, and you can see what games I'm playing on ggApp.io. Also in the description is the playlist that every Mario in Review video will eventually be in. And if you'd like, let me know what your personal Mario ranking is in the comment section. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.